and you come into West Alexander. You go another 5 miles and you come into Triadelphia. You come another 5 miles and you're in Wheeling. And you'll find taverns in all those places. You'll find liveries in all those places. In the 1840s, right where River City Ale Works is, was a livery stable that could accommodate 50 wagons a night. It took up the whole block. You know, I used to make a joke, and I shouldn't do this because Linda's here. I used to make a joke about the smells that came from the livery stable, and is it just coincidental that the Intelligencer is producing this? Now, next time you're up in the north part of town, up at the 10th Street Garage, there has been something associated with transportation in that lot since the National Road came in. It's now a parking garage. Before that, it was a livery stable. Okay, you have to have livery stables because the horses have to be, okay? So then now you need blacksmiths. Okay? Now, if all of these people are coming to town, then you need somebody who can feed them. So you have to have farmers in this area who are going to bring in their crops. So what you're having is an accelerator effect in terms of the economy. There is money to be made in Wheeling. So you open up hat shops. You open up tin shops. You open up broom shops. Somebody opened up a business to catch catfish in the Ohio River. There's somebody who makes a harness. There's somebody who makes a saddle. And if you can make iron nails, then why can't you make an iron shovel or an iron pick or an iron bar of some kind? And if you can use iron to do those things, then why can't you make a boiler out of iron? Or why can't you make a stove out of iron? So you have all of those things. Well, and if business is growing like that, then you need an accountant. And then you need lawyers. And then if you have all those people coming in, you need schools. Okay? So it starts to grow. Now, let me remind you, 32 years ago, downtown Wheeling still had stores that you could buy stuff in. Okay? And we'll talk about that. And those of you who are familiar with Wheeling also know at that time that there was a proposal to put in what was called the Fort Henry Mall. And they defeated it by putting on a referendum in which the citizens of Wheeling voted to do away with urban renewal. Now, we know subsequently that Sears Roebuck Company, which was on 11th Street, was watching to see what would happen with that business. And when it was rejected, Sears then started to look for a new place for its business. And when they opened up the Ohio Valley Mall in 1978 or 79, somewhere along in there, those of you who remember that road at one time, there was at one time no exit there. They created that exit because of that mall. Sears moved out of the mall. And then after Sears moved out, watch what happens. It's the reverse of what happened in Wheeling in the 1840s. People started to move. Well, in this period, people are coming in, and there is all kinds of activity. Let me give you, for instance, a lot of those guys, and they are guys who ride those wagons, we call teamsters. In fact, truck drivers are still called Teamsters Union. Okay? So you need things to appeal to them. And one of the things that a lot of Americans did, a lot of American males and some females in the early part of the 19th century, is they used tobacco. You can chew it or you can smoke it. Okay? And somebody found out, like Mifflin Marsh came to Wheeling in about the 1840s and said, this might be a good place to make cigars, because there are so many people coming through here, going up and down on the steamboats, coming east and west on the roads. And but how do you get the tobacco here? Well, the tobacco is grown over in Monroe County, Ohio, or in the Miami Valley on the other side of Ohio. They just put all of that tobacco in those big Conestoga wagons and send it east. By the 1890s, there'll be 53 companies in Wheeling, from one person to a company that has 600 making tobacco products. People will know Wheeling, oh, that's where they make the stogies. Still, when you come in, you know, before you go into the tunnels, there's that big sign, Marsh Wheeling Stogie. We still make them. Marsh Wheeling Stogies are still made. Guess what? They're not made in Wheeling. They're made in Indiana. They shouldn't be able to use the name, but they do, because it's universally known. So there's another example of a product that you can develop. Well, you need hotels. You need bars. You need all of this stuff. You need companies that will transship goods east and west. So there are big, you know, if you drive the interstates, you'll notice, you'll see big trucking companies like Snyder. Those are the big ones with the orange trucks. Well, you have the same things in the 19th century. You have big lines of wagons. Good Intent, American Express, almost like an American Express company, and all these, and they would go east and west. And all along the way, you would have things develop. For example, if you've ever been on the National Road, once you get to Uniontown, you're confronted with a pretty big mountain. And in 3 miles, that's 1,000 feet up. How do you get wagons up there? Simple. You pull the wagon up to the bottom of the hill, and they add more horses to it. It's called postilions. And you take the horses up. When the horses get to the top, you either unleash them, or in some cases, put some brakes on them so when they go down the other side, they're not running away. If you've ever been in Maryland, where they cut that national road through 68 through that hill, that's called Sidling Hill. It's called Sidling Hill because the national road began on the west side of it, began on the north, and when it reached the top of the mountain, it was due south. And then the road turned and went north again to come down the other side. And they would hire young boys to sit there with extra horses. Those horses would help pull the loads up, and they would bring them down. And then you can bring everything in. Well, the first loads of stuff that come into Wheeling, oysters. Why? Because it's a luxury product, and people will pay extra for that. And it just balloons. Let me give you just a little description of Wheeling in 1843. There are in Wheeling right now 26 steam engines in operation, giving employment to men who make nails, boilers, hoop iron, and we're using in Wheeling about 400,000 bushels of coal every year. A lot of these businesses would have be close. They just dig into the side of the hill and take out their coal for the use. There are 2 tobacco factories, a glue factory, a coach and wagon maker, an edge tool maker, 3 chair makers, a comb maker. There are tailors. There are silversmiths. There are 18 blacksmiths. There are steam planing machines. There are tanners. There are curriers. There are saddlers. There are boot and shoe factories. There are painters and glaziers. That's, for those of you who don't know, glazier, that's, you know, God, you keep a window in. There are rope makers. And you know who one of the rope makers was?